So thanks you guys for joining us. We have news about the Katy Independent School District. Of course, my name is Karen Mayer Cunningham, special education boss. I train everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. And our heart is to equip everybody at the IEP table so that we can craft an IEP and then it's delivered. And unfortunately, we've had problems at the Katy Independent School District in West Houston, Texas. And so I had the opportunity to meet Marilyn, and she came to our last press conference in the fall. And as a whistleblower, she's supposed to come forward and share what's been going on. She is not a parent advocate. She was actually an employee of Katy ISD, and she wanted to share her story. So we want to give her this platform. So Marilyn, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell me what you do for a living. You're a teacher, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a special ed teacher.
Okay, in Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Houston, Texas.
how did you become a special ed teacher?
Um, I started as a general ed teacher, and I took time off for a while to raise my son. And when I came back, subbing, and a lot of school didn't have a lot of people going to general special ed, so they stopped pushing me in there, and I started loving the kids. And they said, not everyone's able to do a special ed. So, it's like you have to be a certain special person. So after being there for a while, I went ahead and took my certificate and added on and become a special ed teacher.
So good. So when you're a special ed teacher, some of the conversations that I have had with the Katy Independent School District is the paperwork will say on the schedule of services page, which is special ed services. The district has told me in recorded meetings that there might be a student who goes an entire year without ever seeing a special educator, which means their goals aren't tracked by a special educator. What's your understanding of if that's appropriate or not?
Hey, that's not appropriate. And I started off in Katy ISD as an ECSE teacher.
And tell us,
And
just for people listening, what's ECSC?
early childhood certificate, early childhood student, 3 years old. As soon as they turn 3, they're able to get into my classroom. One turned 3 in February and started my classroom. So ECSE is for the children is pre-K, but for special ed pre-K.
Perfect. So when did you come to be employed by Katy ISD?
Started employment with them in 2020. In 2020, right after COVID.
Okay. And what did you do for them?
I was the early childhood teacher. They were hiring me as an in-class teacher, but because of short-handed, I was in-class and Zoom teachers.
Oh, awesome. And how was that experience?
It was chaotic,
Yeah.
but you learn a lot.
Yeah.
You learn a lot.
The pandemic was crazy. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And so do you still work for Katy ISD?
No, they fired me.
And why would they? So we're so short on teachers and we're really short on special education teachers. Why would you be fired?
I think because of information. I didn't know at the time, but they hire a lot of yes ma'am people who's say yes ma'am and don't question their authority or their value, anything like that. You just go along with what everyone says. But I'm the type that if it's not right, I would come up and have question, or hey, something's going on, what's wrong with it, and I would have question about it. And they don't like people like challenging them or people that like me. So they really love me as an ECSE teacher, and they promoted me to a kindergarten for case manager the next year. And it was wonderful because I was able to follow with my kids. But one of the teacher who was in 3rd grade, she took an MLA, family
leave.
Teacher leave, and she was just there for 2 months, and she just took off. And so the 3rd grade kids didn't have any service at all for the entire September all the way up to January. And after that,
and so what did the district? What did the? Oh, go ahead.
So around January or around January, February, they started to kind of worry. They have a worry system. So they put me as a third grade case manager too. And at the time I have kindergarten and I have third grade, but at first I have two kindergarten classes. So I was going in between the teachers. I go from, one group and then I go to another. I'll do reading and then I'll do math, and because so that I have able to see all my kids. And then they add me a third one. And I'm like, whoa, I'm already juggling. How am I going to be with the third one? And then when this teacher quit, they put me with the third grade kids. And that's when I start questioning. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm already overloading with these kids. And I love my balancing. But with all these other new kids, how am I going to able to see them all? So they said, oh, no, don't worry about it. You're the teacher, but we're going to put paras in there to help you out. And I was like, okay, but I was doing great with my kids. I know their level of skills and everything. But when I start having para helping me out, the kids starting to not knowing what to do, or they don't know the lesson that I was helping them. But the main thing was my kindergarten kids starting to going down, but the third grade kid, I have 8 kids on my list. Out of all third grade kids, of the eight kids, I only have 2 that I see.
So are you saying that 6 of the kids the district had listed, you didn't work with them personally?
Never. I don't even see them in class. I don't pull them out. And I don't know who these children are. So that when there's an odd meeting and when it's odd present, I was like, who are they? What do they look like? What's going on with them? And they have to say, this is their odd paperwork. You study it, and we'll give you all the detail from the para, what the para know, and you have to write it up. And I start questioning, I'm like, I can't do this. And also the stress level is exhausting.
Right.
The third grade teacher quit in October, and she had an odd coming up in January or February, and I have to present the odd. Never know the child at all in my life. It
So
was
let me just ask you a question, Marilyn. So there's no special educator working with children who require special ed services. Since you brought it up to Katy ISD, did Katy ISD then send out a letter to these 6 children's parents saying that there's no special educator working with your child right now?
no. And I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut. And I think that's why I got in trouble. They start telling me to stop talking so much, stop questioning them, and to do as they said. And one
who's telling
time,
you? Is it, I mean, I don't need names, but is it your principal? Is it
my
somebody from the district level?
my principal, and mainly my principal and assistant, my principal,
And they're just telling you to zip it.
just to do my job and stop questioning what stop questioning authority.
Okay. So that must have been really stressful to sit in these legal meetings and then you sign the paperwork that you were the special educator.
It was not only that, it was very stressful to present a piece of paper to say you got to do this meeting on Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning, but you have to write it up on a Friday. It's just that Friday, and by 8 o'clock in the morning, you got to present everything and do it perfectly on task without any question, any skill. And I'm like, but I don't know who these kids are. Well, that's not your problem. And I shared with you, one little boy, he's not even a special ed kid, he's a general ed kid, but they have these padded room for children who are behavior. The kids could go into that room and they were screaming out, and to me it's just like uncalled for. It's
Are
more
they
like
leaving children alone in these padded rooms?
they're not. They kind of left the door crack, but there's like the principal, the assistants, the team lead, two other people. They're like a group of people, a group of adults standing out there, laughing, talking, and as the kid is screaming. But my question was, one little boy is a general ed kid. He's not even a sped kid. He was a general education kid, and they took him to this room and traumatized him. And that's when I stepped by. I said, look, I said, I know this little boy, you know, his name is Grayson, and he's not a special ed kid. What are you doing? And when they had a meeting with his parent, they were telling her it's good, you know, it's good that he need to be in sped, you know, and all kind of stuff. And they look at me and they said, you need to better not say one word. Don't even mention anything about that room. Don't mention anything at all. So I had to sit there and nervously knowing it's not right. And I think that's why when they realize I know too much, I'm questioning them too much, they were ready to push me out the door. And I felt like that's why they did what they did to me.
Yeah, so when they started to retaliate against you, who was the one leading that? I think you had said at the press conference, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the attorney Justin Graham for the district Katy ISD had contacted you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I know that man because I was with a union rep, and my union rep tried to help me out, but at the time they pushed me from that was 2020 22 23 22, and the next following year they put me in pre-K because I know too much and I know they were breaking the law. And so they were putting me in pre-K, saying that I can't teach pre-K. You know, they were trying to push me out the door. They're trying to make me resign, is what they're trying to do. And not
And
knowing
did
my
you, Marilyn, did you resign? Did you just go away quietly?
nope, no. The reason I wouldn't, because they didn't know my background. Even though I was a sped teacher, I was a pre-K teacher before that in Klein ISD for 3 years, exemplary. I have an exemplary where people from Mexico and student teachers was coming to my classroom observing me. And the very first principal in Klein ISD, who's African American, Dora William, took me under her wing, and I became an exemplary teacher there. And now, years later, when I came to Katy ISD, I was a below teacher.
Yeah.
And so that's why my union rep's like, whoa, this teacher has all this credential.
Right.
What is it that she became all of a sudden below? And that's why Justin Graham know me, because my lawyer trying to represent me, and Justin Graham was the lawyer that told him, oh, you know, even though she got fired because we put her name with the board of trustee, this was after when the board trustee went ahead and fired me. He said, oh, we can change it. We can change it for her to resign if she want to, and tell her it's better for her because she'll never get a job if she get fired.
That's such manipulation. What a violation of his licensure. So, did you get another job as an educator?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. And so you're getting to work with kids now?
Yes, and I'm in special ed, and I love it. And you know, they're very thankful that I'm there, and I'm able to follow the law. It's like, hey, Mrs. Cunningham saying that you're doing this and this wrong, you know, and they know it's like, hey, she knows her law. We don't play with her, so they're able to revise, you know, charter school to be a really good
Oh, that's so
thing.
good. That's so good. And
And
that's why I do the trainings. I'm a non-attorney advocate. I'm a college dropout, but I've been representing families in Texas for decades. I'm allowed to represent them all the way through due process hearings. Actually, the first due process hearing I ever did in Texas was against Katy Independent School District, and they settled. We were triumphant. So the bullying to advocates is not lost on us. Not only is there that we try to manipulate advocates and parents, but as a teacher, you were manipulated when you're there totally child-centered. Were you able to?
well,
Wait,
I felt Thankfully, I've had a position, a school, pick me up. But if that school didn't pick me up, I would have been out of a job. I would, Katie would have tarnished my certificate and reputation. And for me, I didn't understand how is it that they're short on teacher, short on this experienced, well-educated teacher and sped teacher, but they got rid of me. And I was in the 2022-23, I was a pre-K teacher at Katy ISD in Bear Creek Elementary School. But if you look on their report, they have a sped teacher position all through the year from October all the way to the end of the year. And it was not filled. It's a not filled, not filled, not filled because they couldn't find a sped teacher. But here I am, fully certified, fully capable. And because I know too much and not falling for what they want me to fall, they pull me out. And the kids that are sped did not get service at all that entire year. And that's why I'm speaking up, because out of the 6 kids, out of the 8 kids, only 2 was service with me, but the 6 weren't even service. And the following year, none of them was service. So I felt like, what is Katy doing? That they're getting all these money from SPED and all that stuff, but they're not servicing these kids. And these kids shouldn't be going through unjustified for that.
No, that's terrible. And I know we get myself, we get emails literally every day from all of our ways to contact us from teachers who say they want to report what the school's doing wrong. And I tell them, if you do that, love, you're probably going to lose your job. Right. And so kind of share with us what it's like for other teachers who, and I would never want anybody to lose their job. What is it like for other teachers who want to speak up?
Nobody's speaking up. And I think I'm the first one. And the reason, like I said, the reason I'm speaking up is because I choose to be fired. And maybe part of it's my Asian culture, and part of it because my dad taught me to stand up
Stand
firm.
up. Yeah.
Because he said, you know what, even if you're fired, he said, if you're fired, someone else will pick you up because they know you're good. But even if you never teach again, there's always other field that you can go into. And I felt like Katy did me wrong. And so that's why I'm speaking up. Wait, you got a really good, person that's certified and that's doing all these stuff with the kids, but you're doing them wrong because they want to speak the wrong, the injustice and the wrong, what's going on. Instead of correcting it, you're harming them versus correcting the situation.
Yeah, when you were in Katy, did you ever hear of, and you may not have, it's what's been told to me at meetings and recorded meetings. Did you ever hear of that we in Katy ISD, we have a para model? Have you ever heard that told to you from leadership?
I I didn't hear the word paramodel, but I've seen it done. I've seen it done, and it's been done to with me, because I was an ECSE teacher, the early childhood teacher. Instead of going to pre-K, they go to my class because they're special ed. As soon as they turn 3, they're able to come to my classroom. And so I was able to teach them. And the next following year, they go to kindergarten. And they follow with me to kindergarten. I follow them to kindergarten. I was their case manager. And I had 2 classes that I was helping out with the case. I did math with one group, and then I did reading with the next, and then I'll swap so that they all get it. But then all of a sudden another 3rd class was needing my service. And that's when the para stepped in. And, I would go to math, and then the pair come back and, redirect, and then another one. But the 3rd classes there's only 2 of us. Where's the 3rd one? So that's when they're putting the para. And then when they add me with the 3rd graders, that's when I'm questioning, because I have my kindergarten kids, and they stop me from going in class because they don't have people to do the resource for the 3rd grade. So they start using these paras. I have paras looking at my kindergarten kids while I'm doing resource with the 3rd grade. And I have 2 resource boys and the 6 kids. No one looked after them, and other paras was in there. So yes, Katy does have a para, but it's a lot of paras going into these classes where the special ed teacher were never once able to. How can we? There's only one of us, and there's 10 classes.
Yeah, I want to share with everybody that's watching. This is the Texas Education Agency has great guidelines, and this is called Specially Designed Instruction, which is another word for special education, a resource for teachers. And in this very detailed guidance, which goes to school districts, it talks about how a paraprofessional absolutely is part of the special education product. But it says in here countless times, only after they have had the initial instruction from a special educator, and then they continue to be supervised, which means sort of a para could work with Billy, but after Marilyn had worked with them, and then Marilyn would go back to the para and say, this works, and repeat it. But it was never to be the lead special educator. And so I can't thank you enough, Marilyn, for coming forward. I mean,
Well, thank you. But also, here's another thing. Here's what I'm really want to stress. Even though they're doing the para, you know, model, the sad thing is we're so short on these para and teacher that they're putting sub in the classroom. And so you have sub in the classroom and they're like, oh yeah, we're having hours for these kids. But how can you when the sub don't even know who these kids are? And when I was a pre-K teacher, when they pulled me out for the 2022-23, there was a sub in the 3rd grade, 4th grade that have never, don't even know that they're SPED kids. So how do you service SPED kids when they're just sub? They're not even long-term sub. They're like a daily sub.
yeah.
And that's why I was saying, pull up the district, page on all the sub in that year, 2023. It will say there's a vacancy of a SPED class, and the
Okay.
sub was daily subbing. And how can you be a special ed kid when you don't have a sub who don't even know you? So
Right.
it's
And the
not only
substitute teachers, and you tell me, I could be wrong. So did the paraprofessionals get a copy of the student's IEP?
no, they don't. What they do, the teacher, the general ed teacher has a copy and it's in the folder. It doesn't mean they look at it. It's just a copy.
And
So
I mean, does the school, do paras have an email address at the school?
yes.
So are they emailed all of their students in August before they start the school year, or they're depending on the special ed teacher?
The pair go in and sign their name that they are servicing the kids, but that doesn't mean they're servicing the kids.
Right.
It's just a signing to say, I service the kids. Each classes has a binder with all the IEP in it, but that doesn't mean that the parent know what's going on or the sub know what's going on. It's just to cover their behind.
Yeah. And IEPs, you and I both know, are pretty complicated. They've got lots of unusual words. The time that it takes for me just to represent a client, I have to prep for an hour for each kiddo. So is there time set aside for parents to sit down and look through IEP paperwork?
No, the only time when the parent is touching in the IEP is in the beginning of the year when all the SPED teachers printing them out and they're putting binders to pass out to the teacher, and the end of the year to pick them up. So even the parent themselves don't know what the IEP is or what's in there. And also when they go into a classroom, they are told not to target the kids because it's illegal. So the parent don't even know who they're looking at or who they're trying to service. They're just there to chit chat with the general ed teacher and just to say that they're there for 10 or 20 minutes, whatever, how many minutes they are, that's it, that they're there.
It just breaks my heart. You know, special education's been a law since December 2nd, 1975. And I'm not looking for perfection. Marilyn's not looking for perfection, but we're looking for progress. And when the pandemic started, I found this sort of, most school districts started to do even better, right? But I don't know who is leading this at the district, but this is a known action. It happens at literally every campus that I'm at with my clients. It's not a couple of my clients. And I used to recommend Katy ISD as my favorite school district. I would have people move here from out of state and I would say, you got to move to Katy, you got to move to Katy. And it just sickens me, A, for the tax base that Katy ISD property owners pay. And these students are receiving state and federal funding. And so, is there anything that you want to leave with people? Anything that you haven't got to share that you want to share?
All I'm just saying is that Katy is not doing correctly, and they are intimidating the teachers, fearing, if, like I said, if we want a good service, we just have to exit out quietly. And the kids are being unjustly not servicing right. When you have a good teacher servicing them and doing the great stuff, they manipulate and push them out the door the incorrect way. And so the kids not getting the service that they needed.
Yeah,
And
and the difference is, these children need these services so they can be successful adults. They need to know how to regulate. They need to know how to do math and read. And, it's egregious. It's a violation of their procedural rights and safeguards for the parents and students. And we're going to keep giving a voice to this. So, Marilyn, would you be willing to come back later for a follow-up if we need?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming on. We're gonna post this across everything. If anybody has any questions or wants to share their story, you can email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com, because we just want this to be known so that change comes. And maybe there's no change because the people that could make the change don't know, but we're gonna keep talking about this till it's fixed in Katy ISD. Thank you for your time, Marilyn. And
Thank you.
we will see you guys at the next training.
Thank you.